For 163 days, the 90-pound red pit bull in Kennel 7 answered no one at Rosewood Animal Shelter. They called him broken. Staff would stand at his gate and call his name, clap, hold out treats, wave their arms, and the big red dog would just stare through them like they were not there. He never barked, he never came, he never so much as flicked an ear. Unresponsive, the file said, after 3 different trainers gave up, possibly aggressive. And so the red pit bull they called Hank sat in Kennel 7 for 163 days, and 24 different people looked at him and said some version of the same thing. Something is wrong with that dog. Then one gray Thursday, a young woman who had never spoken a single word in her entire life stood in front of his gate, lifted her hands, and made 3 small shapes in the air. And what that broken red pit bull did next stunned everyone who saw it. Nora Bennett was 28 years old, and she had never said a word out loud in her entire life. She had been born unable to speak, and had spent 28 years in a hearing world that did not know what to do with her. She could hear everything, she just could not answer, not with her voice, and after a lifetime of watching people look away or speak slower and louder as if that would help, Nora had built a very quiet life. She worked from home as a graphic designer. She signed with her 2 sisters and almost no one else. She lived alone in a small apartment in Tacoma, Washington, and most days her only conversations were typed into a phone. She was not lonely exactly. She had just gotten very used to being the one person in every room that no one knew how to talk to. She was not looking for a dog. She had come to Rosewood that Thursday because a neighbor asked her to photograph a few of the adoptable animals for the shelter's website. A small favor, 2 hours of her time. She had photographed 11 dogs and was almost finished when she reached the last run at the end of the row, Kennel 7. His name was Hank, a 90-pound red pit bull with a broad head, a white blaze down his chest, and calm amber eyes that did not so much as blink when she raised her camera. He had come in 163 days earlier as a stray, picked up wandering a highway shoulder 40 miles south of the city. No collar, no chip that anyone had scanned properly, half-starved, 15 pounds underweight. He had shut down almost the moment he arrived. He would not respond to a single trainer. He would not play, would not beg, would not react to noise or motion or food. 3 experienced volunteers had tried for weeks and gotten nothing, and a dog who does not respond in a shelter with 50 other animals gets a hard word in his file and a short amount of time. Nora lowered her camera and looked at him, and something about the way he sat, still and shut down and somewhere far away, landed in her chest. She knew that particular kind of quiet. She had been living inside it for 28 years, the quiet of a creature surrounded by a language it cannot use. So Nora did not clap or wave or hold out a treat the way the others had. She stepped up to the wire, lifted her hands, and signed the only thing that felt right. "Hello. Good boy. Are you there?" And Hank's head turned. I know you're still watching but haven't subscribed yet, and after a dog like Hank, that stings a little. Tap subscribe. Everyone said this one was broken, and subscribing is how the world finds out what he really was. For 163 days, Hank had not reacted to a single human being. Now his ears swung forward, his whole body came alive, and his amber eyes locked onto Nora's hands with an intensity that made her breath catch. She signed sit, slowly, unsure, and Hank sat. Not the way a dog sits for a treat, distracted and half listening. He sat the way a soldier answers a command he had waited a long time to hear again, immediate and complete, his eyes never leaving her fingers. Nora's hands were shaking a little now. She signed lie down. Hank lay down. She signed shake, and the 90-pound pit bull that 3 trainers had written off as unresponsive lifted one heavy red paw and held it out toward her through the gap in the gate. A volunteer named Priya walked past, stopped, and stared, because in 163 days, she had never seen that dog do anything at all. She went and got 2 others, and 3 shelter workers stood in that hallway in complete silence, watching a woman who had never spoken a word in her life have an entire conversation with a dog no one else could reach. Because Hank was not broken. Hank had simply been waiting for 163 days for a single pair of hands that spoke the only language he knew. Nora came back the next morning at 9 before the shelter opened, and Priya let her in. She sat on the concrete floor outside Kennel 7, signed to Hank for almost an hour, and he answered everything. Sit, stay, come, wait, but also things no basic shelter dog would know. She signed water, and Hank walked to his bowl. She signed bed, and he went to his blanket and lay down. Somebody had not just taught this dog a few tricks, somebody had taught him an entire life in sign. So the staff went looking, and over the next 4 days, the story came together. When Hank had arrived as a stray 163 days before, he had come in with nothing, but a second scan of his microchip, done properly this time, finally pulled up a record that had been sitting in the system the whole time. Hank was a certified hearing dog. For 6 years, he had been the ears of a deaf man named Earl, a 71-year-old widower who lived alone 40 miles south of Tacoma. Hank had alerted Earl to his doorbell, his smoke alarm, a knock at the door, his own name being called. He had been Earl's constant companion and his connection to the hearing world, and the two of them had built a whole private language across 6 quiet years. And then, 5 months earlier, Earl had died. A neighbor found out days later, and in the confusion that follows when someone who lives alone passes with no close family, Hank had gotten out, and a trained hearing dog who had just lost the only person he ever served ended up wandering a highway 40 miles from home until animal control brought him to a shelter full of people who spoke only with their voices. He had not been broken. He had been grieving and waiting in a building where not one single person spoke his language for 163 days. When Priya explained all of it to Nora, writing it out on a notepad between them, Nora sat very still for a long moment. Then she picked up the pen and wrote 3 words, "I understand him," and she signed the adoption papers that same afternoon. Everyone told her it was a bad idea. The shelter's own file still had the word aggressive in it and a hard note about 163 days of no response. Her older sister asked gently whether a woman living alone who could not call out for help should really bring home a 90-pound pit bull labeled dangerous. A caseworker raised the same concern.
A neighbor said a dog that size with that history with a woman who could not so much as shout a command was a risk. 24 people, if you counted them all, told Nora that Hank was too much, too dangerous, too broken. But here is what none of them understood. That so-called dangerous, so-called broken dog was about to give Nora something she had waited 28 years for. The first week home, the two of them simply learned each other. Hank followed Nora from room to room, always watching her hands, and within days, he had done for her exactly what he had once done for Earl. When someone knocked, Hank went to the door and then came and touched her knee with his nose. When her phone buzzed across the room, he brought her attention to it. When her smoke alarm chirped a low battery at 2 in the morning, a sound she could not hear, Hank woke her by pressing his 90-pound body against hers until she opened her eyes. He was still, after all these months, a hearing dog. He had just been waiting for someone to be his person. The same dog 24 people had called broken became Nora's ears. The same dog 3 trainers had written off as unresponsive learned the layout of her apartment in a weekend and the shape of her days in a week. The same red pit bull no one at Rosewood could reach now slept at the foot of her bed and woke every morning already watching her hands, waiting for the first thing she would say. And somewhere in those first quiet weeks, without either of them deciding it, they gave each other a life. For the first time in 28 years, Nora lived with someone who understood every single thing she said, instantly, without her ever needing a voice. And Hank, who had lost his whole world at 6 years old, had a person again. Today, 2 years later, Hank goes everywhere with Nora, in a red service vest with a patch that reads, "Hearing Dog," the same words that were on the worn vest Earl had bought him years before. The neighbor who called him dangerous waves at him every morning. Her sister, who had worried, cried the first time she watched Hank alert Nora to her ringing phone and then lean his head against her. And the 24 people who swore he was broken have all gone very quiet. Because here is the simple truth every one of them missed. A dog who does not answer is not always broken. Sometimes he is just speaking a language no one around him has bothered to learn, waiting more patiently than we deserve for the one person who finally will. Nora was that person for Hank, and Hank, it turned out, was that person for Nora.
If you are thinking about adopting a dog, especially one the shelter has marked difficult or dangerous, please do not believe the label before you have really tried to understand him. The dog who sits silent at the back of the kennel, the one everyone has given up on, is so often not broken at all, only waiting to be understood. Because Nora did not really rescue Hank from that shelter. If you ask her, she will tell you, with her hands, that a red pit bull nobody could reach spent 163 days waiting for someone who spoke his language. And when she finally did, he gave a woman who had never had a voice, someone who could hear every word. So let me ask you honestly, would you have looked twice at a 90-pound pit bull that 24 people swore was broken and dangerous? Or would you have walked past Kennel 7 like everyone else? Tell me in the comments. And if a rescue dog ever understood you when the rest of the world could not, say their name below so people remember what these dogs are really worth.